Welcome to the RevMD podcast with me, your host, Dr. Deborah Durst, and my co-host.
Hey guys, Faraday Golombiewski, family nurse practitioner here at Revitalize MD, and today we have a fun podcast. It's always a fun podcast.
Well, when we're talking about sex, for
Of
sure.
course.
Yeah, we weren't saying the same thing when we were talking about supplements. Not as
No,
much.
sex is way more fun to talk about.
Yeah. So seasonal sex facts. And so is there a season to our sex life?
Are couples friskier in the summer? Are they friskier in the winter? Do we cuddle up and have more sex, or do we strip down and put on a bikini and have more sex?
Yeah, so you guys definitely need to. We look forward to the comments because they're usually entertaining. So definitely drop some comments on which season works best for you. But it looks like overall summer is the one. Summer lovin' is what it is.
Summer lovin'.
Yeah.
Had me a blast, right?
Yeah. Well, we should have known back to Greece. That's
Yep.
yeah. But 52% say they're more sexually active in the summer months, right?
More
And-
daylight equals more D, it equals more dopamine, so we're happier.
Yeah. And
Right.
so basically, in what led to even that being is that more libido supplements are searched for in the spring and leading to summer.
That's
And
right. The
so-
Google Analytics. Look at you pulling out all the
Mhm,
stats, Deb.
mhm. Yeah, I'm into the Google Analytics. Yeah. So, no, they actually are searching more for those supplements in the spring, approaching the summer. And so they're starting to think about it. But I think that, again, for women, because we'll always give you a little, at least the woman
Our twist to
perspective.
it.
Yeah. We prepare for the summer bodies in the winter. So
Oh,
we're
yeah.
already kind of preparing and thinking. And definitely as spring approaches, we're like, oh, shit. We got to get into our swimsuits. And so,
It's January, February. It's like, oh, lake season.
yeah.
It's only just a couple months away.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
So-
need to be ready. And so you have to think ahead for that because,
Start doing
Yeah.
your lasers, get on your peptides,
Yeah.
start working out,
Yeah.
tighten everything up before you got to strip down.
yeah. But then again, maybe more sex in the summer. So let us know what you think about that. But then it says that men actually have a higher testosterone and it peaks in the early fall or late fall and early winter.
But
And
your
so-
biggest killer in testosterone is stress.
Yeah.
So what happens during those winter months? You've got between November with Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of the stress around the holidays, all the travel.
Yeah.
It's
I'm dying to hear the male perspective on that. Like, is the winter, is Thanksgiving, is Christmas really that stressful for men? Or is that something that
That might just
women
be a woman thing.
fabricate in their minds? Because, so I'm curious to hear that because would stress in winter and Thanksgiving and Christmas actually lower a guy's thinking about sex or wanting sex?
no, but it can affect their partner's thinking and wanting
Correct. Yeah,
sex.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if they're peaking in the winter if the women are stressed out.
Yeah, so I also then want to hear, is there a mismatch in the winter and around the holidays? Because testosterone peaks then, but
Yeah.
then stress levels might increase with the woman. And so I'd be curious to see what the dynamics with that are.
So
and
men,
if people have run into issues. But at least you know if you've run into issues that maybe there's a reason for it. And stress does lower a woman's sex drive.
well, and it'll lower a man's sex drive. It doesn't matter if that testosterone's elevated if they're highly stressed. And
Yeah.
well, no, I take that back from my understanding. It doesn't matter. Sex is always on your mind. I might need to retract that statement.
Yeah, that was-
I don't
that
know
was
if
a-
stress affects men as much.
That was a myth.
yeah, that might be a myth.
What she is stating that is factual is that cholesterol goes to DHEA. DHEA is either going to go to form sex hormones or to cortisol. So if you're stressed, you might shunt sex hormone production to a cortisol pathway. But we see frequently in practice that it doesn't matter how low a man's testosterone, not
gets.
always, but it is like the
Pretty
last
frequently.
thing to leave for men, sex drive, and it's the first thing to go for women. And so it's
And then the
opposite
first thing to
way.
come back for men and the last thing to come back for women.
Yeah, so I think that even if it's shunting to cortisol, they probably still have the sex drive.
They
'cause-
still want sex.
yeah.
If their testosterone's regulated.
Yeah. Or even if it's not, sometimes, again, they could be low in testosterone. They'll have lots of other symptoms, but sometimes the sex drive is not one of them, where that's the opposite for women.
Now,
And then-
seasonal depression is real, right? So
Yes.
lack of sunlight, lack of serotonin levels or lowered serotonin levels can cause that seasonal depression, which can lower libido.
Yeah.
So that is something I think is non-gender specific. Men and women are both affected by seasonal depression
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So even if your testosterone's higher, if your serotonin levels are low and you're not getting that sunlight and you're really one of those people that kind of need the sun to be happy,
Yeah.
that could be affecting the libido as well.
Yeah. Well, and again, the thing that does impact it no matter what season, and we've already driven it home, is the stress. But I would think more in the winter that you're inside and more inside. And so everyone could potentially be fighting. There's kids, there's all kinds of
Lack of
things. Yeah.
patience.
You're
What are you thinking
stuffed
about?
you're stuffed in a house together and there's some fighting. But the issue is that, again, that might decrease it because sex is play. And so there's love and there's play. And so women and men think of this a little bit differently, and women tend to get all into their heads with it, but it's play. And so there's love and there's play. And if you have issues in a relationship, women tend to 99% of sex for women is in the head. So if there's stress, there's fighting, there's kid issues, you're stuck inside.
You're all together all the time.
Yes.
There is no play.
Yeah. Then you can't separate, you can't resolve the issues to actually just play. And so those are things that, at least from a couple standpoint, if that is causing an issue in the relationship, is to at least to be aware that maybe you need to work to solve some of those issues so that then you can have fun and play. Yeah. And so, but anything else for keeping it hot all year round? Any big tips, Faraday, for that?
Big tips.
Yeah.
Oh, all the tips, right?
No pun intended.
No pun.
Any big
Gonna
tips
need to
that
collect
you wanna-
myself
yeah.
here for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we now?
Big tips.
Big tips.
For,
That's what I thought
yeah.
we were talking
Yeah.
about. So, staying hydrated, getting regular exercise, sleep hygiene. Those are all big things. Stress management, hormonal balance. As we're aging, our hormones are kind of in flux. At a certain point, our testosterone is going to decrease to the point for women, it's going to kill our libido. It's just one more thing added to all that big list that Dr. Durst was kind of mentioning earlier. So making sure that your hormones are optimized, going somewhere where they can check your levels. If you are like, I sleep good, I exercise good, I'm doing all the things in my relationship, but I feel stuck, or that libido's not there, and I've cleaned my diet, I've cut out alcohol, I don't use drugs, all of those things, and you're still feeling that low libido or that drag, have your hormones checked, see a specialist. In our office, we have conversations about all of this, these open conversations, and do comprehensive consults and lab work, and then open up these conversations for couples.
Yeah.
And that was another thing in the stats, is it showed that consults increase in the winter months. So because we're feeling it a little bit more in January and February, libido consults and hormone clinics increased 20 to 30%.
Wow.
So something's going on, whether it's the wife not feeling it, the husband not feeling it. But even though we're seeing those increases, like you said, you're in January and February, we're thinking about the summer.
Yeah.
And we're in a slump. So sleep, hormones tested, exercise, diet.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we kind of talk about a lot when it comes down to hormones. That's about all you can do naturally. There's some supplements out there that we've got some great podcasts talking about supplementation you can take to boost libido and boost and support testosterone. But really, ultimately, it kind of comes down to seeing a specialist and getting those levels checked and seeing what you need.
Yeah, and I think that if you have fluctuations, just no fluctuations in sex drive are pretty normal. But if it's a sustained, then definitely getting those levels checked is important. So,
You got
again,
any tips?
No, that was my only tip. Well,
Your only tip was the tip.
Just the tip that I have is that you basically, if it's persistent, you get it checked, and so that would be my just the tip. Tip. So anyhow, but we are willing to deep dive into anything. So please let us know your comments, your thoughts. I look forward to seeing them, and let us know if there's anything else you want to talk about, because we are willing to deep dive into anything wellness or sexual wellness. Thank you.